Okay, so we're checking another EDC flashlight. This is from ASTROLUX, and this is called the EA05. This is the sand color version, and there's also a black and a green version. In terms of the LEDs that are in here, you have an SFT42R plus an HL2X, 6500 Kelvin. Let's go ahead and get it out of the box. All right, so here's everything you get in the box. You get the flashlight, user's guide. You get a wrist strap here. Get a couple of spare O-rings, and this looks like a metal clip that you can optionally put on. Probably goes on somewhere here, I imagine it looks like. Here's a look at the flashlight itself. You got your ASTROLUX branding here, EA05, a button here, magnetic tail. This is where your wrist strap's going to go in. It's kind of a matte, kind of gold sand colored finish on the aluminum. Got some different LEDs here. Those are the ones that I mentioned earlier that are on the box. I think that's for the SFT42R and the HL2X. So you got a number of different LEDs. I think there's two different modes, like a floodlight mode and a spotlight mode in this one here. But a bunch of those, and then let's see what's inside here. Probably a 21700 cell, by the way this is sized. And yeah, we got a insulation piece here. Gonna pull that out. That's just so the battery doesn't self-discharge. And we have an ASTROLUX branded 5000 milliamp hour, 2100 or 21700 cell, and it's a flat top. Does look like there is a spring on the other end there. Just a quick look at the manual, just some of the specs here in terms of the lumen levels. So in the turbo mode, it's going to be 6200 lumens max. So there's a turbo plus a flood mode. So there's a throw plus a flood mode. So it's like a sort of a wider beam or versus a narrower beam. We'll show that a little bit later. So flood versus throw, different lumen levels for those. So you can actually have either the flood or the throw mode on separately or together, and that's where you get the maximum number of lumens. So turbo is 6200, low is 10, but then flood mode 5300 versus 10, and then in throw mode, that's probably the I'm thinking that's probably the narrower beam. I'm guessing 1320 versus 10 on the low, and then you have a red and a blue LED on this one. So that's why there's a whole bunch of LEDs on here. So there's going to be, I think it's probably a flood versus a sort of a narrower beam, and then a red and blue LED, and then you have the flashing LED. So basically for strobe mode, you have 2000 lumens for that, and the red and blue strobe is 50. And here are all the corresponding run times. So obviously max power, not too long, not too bad. 2 hours is not too bad for max power. And then obviously in low power, 13 hours, pretty decent. Here are the intensity numbers, and then the range, or how far it will go. So obviously for both lights on, 586 looks like meters for the max range. And here's the rest of the specs there, the LEDs that are indicated. Tempered glass front there, IPX6 waterproof rated, only a 1 meter impact rating. So if you drop it for more than that, it could be damaged. And here are the sizes. So 130 by 41 by 27.5. And the weight is 131 grams without the battery. All right, so quick basic operation test here. So single click here, and we get this defaults to the floodlight mode. And then to increase the levels here, you're going to long press the button. So it looks like the max. And so we single press it, goes to this is the spotlight mode. And if we press it again, turns it off. If you want to get the combined mode, you're going to have to turn it back on again. So it has memory there. Remember, it's the last mode I was in. And then we should long press to dim it down. It's too bright. And then if you double press the button when it's on, you're going to get the combined spotlight and floodlight modes. And in the spotlight mode, you can also increase and decrease the intensity by long pressing the button. So that's the lowest, and then double press the button, you get both. But if you long press the button, it turns it off. In standby mode, if you double press the button, it'll go into strobe light mode. So you might want to fast forward through this part of the video if you're sensitive to flashing lights. So we're going to double press the button. Got the strobe there, and then single press to turn it off. If you triple press it, you get the red flashing light. There's red and blue flashing. And if you single press the button while it's flashing, it just turns into a solid light. So it looks like it was flashing blue and it turned solid blue. And if it's flashing red and you single press the button, it'll turn just the red LED on by itself. Also note that when I turned on the combined spotlight and floodlight mode, it was in turbo. So let's go ahead, I'll turn this light on and then double press. So in the combined mode, it is in turbo by default. All right, so with that, I'm going to go take it outside and we'll see how the light performs in the dark. All right, so here we are in the dark. So we get the floodlight here, and let's go ahead and adjust the brightness. So that was the brightest level, and that's the lowest illumination. And we'll long press and go back to the brightest illumination. So the floodlight is pretty good for things that are close for sure. I can see those trees further away. It doesn't show up as well on the camera as it does in real life. Press the button again. Now this is the spotlight. So the spotlight definitely goes much further. You can see all those trees are lit up really well. And then here's both of them on at the same time in the turbo mode. So this is the maximum brightness. So you get the benefits of the spotlight for far away stuff and the nice floodlight for stuff that's really close. Turn it off. That's the strobe mode. So there's the blue light. And here's the red light. So not particularly that useful. It's fine for stuff that's really close, but the blue and the red light is definitely for stuff that's just for nearby. All right, so I'm gonna walk away from the camera here. This is the floodlight. And yeah, even the floodlight works pretty well on those trees over there. I can see them quite nicely. Definitely works better on stuff that's close. And here's just the spotlight by itself. You can see this little closer tree here definitely lit up really well, and this over here, that one looks pretty good on the spotlight. And here's both of them together. One thing to note is that the end where the LEDs are is getting pretty warm if you're on the brightest level, so something to be aware of. But that's going to cover my review of this flashlight. I'll put a link in the description if you guys want to check it out. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one.